Well, welcome everybody to another episode of the Iowa Gravel Series Podium Podcast. My name is Chris McQueen. I am your host, and we have, surprise, surprise, a fantastic guest for today. Gwen Barrett won a podium seat here at our recent Albia Holy Cow in 2024. Was a great day in the saddle. I think we can, we'll get more into that with Gwen. We'll let Gwen be the judge, whether it was really a great day in the saddle for her. So we'll have to hear that story. But Gwen, it is so wonderful to have some time with you and to get to know you.
Thank you, Chris. It's great to be here. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Gwen, so let's kind of start at the beginning, get to know you a little bit. Curious what you do, where you're from, and then like we can get into like how you got into cycling.
How I got into cycling. Okay, so I grew up in Alton, Illinois, stone's throw away from St. Louis, Missouri. Moved over to St. Charles for work and hadn't looked back. Love it. And so my job is director of community enrichment at a retirement community. So I run all of the activities programs for my independent living group and then supervise staff for wellness, transportation, and activities crew for care center and assisted living and memory care as well.
Oh wow! So you're dealing with some of super busy, and you're keeping some of the most important people in our lives healthy and happy.
Yes, I actually took a 90-year-old zip lining earlier this year, like a month ago. Yeah.
Wow, that is awesome for that. Well, for the 90-year-old, first of all, let's say like that's the awesome thing. So, and
my goal is to keep our whole motto is helping older adults live life to the fullest. So that is a job I take to heart every day.
Brilliant. I'm curious, and maybe this is a good segue into how you got into cycling things. Like, so what are some of the things that as you are working with people in their older age that you're learning from and kind of taking away as life lessons that you're thinking about as you prepare for, we only get older around here, right?
I have learned so much from them. I started working in retirement or in long-term care retirement communities right out of college. So, I mean, I've been at my building for 14 years. So they've watched me grow up from a 22-year-old right out of college to being one of the big bosses on the site. So it's really fun. They have watched me grow, lose loved ones, been kind of secondary grandparents. So those life lessons that as I've lost my grandparents, they've kept that spirit alive for me. So, I mean, just their insight into the world and everything that they've gone through. It's amazing. Yeah. And watching the care and compassion they have for their spouses kind of really helped me focus in on what I wanted in my life and who I wanted in my life.
Yeah. I mean, being surrounded by that much wisdom probably is pretty
it's powerful.
Pretty powerful. So what are some and we can talk beyond cycling as well.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what are some of the things that you're focused on right now and
right now, work-wise, I'm always focused on, what the next big event that's coming up. So trying to balance like what my husband and I are trying to do cycling-wise and life-wise, kind of balancing that with what I've got going on here always seems to be a little tightrope because I would love nothing more than to just drop everything and hit the road and be out doing whatever I want. But then I have the stuff over here pulling me back in. So
balance.
We're talking down the road, taking like a couple months off every year so we can start exploring. We're looking at buying a tandem so we can start traveling with tandem wise and doing cross country at one point and all that fun stuff. So a lot of our home time is dedicated to figuring out what we want to do and when.
Yeah. What so when you say cross country, are you thinking like across the United States sort of thing?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep. We want to go coast to coast. And being in Missouri is kind of perfect because we're talking like starting from Missouri, heading west, coming back home, and then going from home east and back.
Oh, that's a good point. I never really thought about doing it that way.
I mean, being in the middle of the country, you kind of can do it that way.
And I mean, I have it's not that hard to ship a bicycle as well. I mean, if you get off to the West Coast, you could string it
Yeah.
all together and basically ride yourself back home,
Well, and
have one
every bike
flight.
we've pretty much figured out that we can deconstruct it to a point where we can put it in a car rental and drive back and just do a one-way rental.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Well, so let's talk about I mean, have you always had an interest in cycling, or is this something that's kind of newer? Like, how did you get interested?
So we started cycling pre-pandemic. So right before everybody really got into those outdoor feats that you can do because you can't be around people. We started in 19. We started dating in 2018, and I had a new job and a new boyfriend, and I kind of put on more weight than I really wanted to. So in late 19, in early summer 19, we decided to start doing exercise. He was really kind of like, well, let's do workouts together. And it's like, yeah, but I'd rather be outside. Like, I'm a hiker. I want to do outside pursuits. So we started with cycling. We got myself a little cruiser, a little cheap Trek cruiser. And I got 17 miles in as my longest ride on that thing before we upgraded to my checkpoint. So I was really proud of that 17-mile ride, but we'd be out there for an hour just doing 10-mile loops, and I'd be tired. And so we kind of built off of that as my health goals improved, because I was up there pushing about 260. So over the last 3 years, I've lost 100 pounds, and cycling has been a major part of that.
That's amazing, Gwen. So we met and talked at the first aid station at Albia and everything. And yeah, there's nothing to me that pointed that you were at one point in your life over 200 pounds or something like that. So because how tall are you, if you
I'm 5'9".
Okay, so I mean 5'9", yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So
like as we got closer
primarily
to our
all
wedding,
through cycling?
Yeah. I'm sorry, what?
And this is primarily all through cycling?
Weightlifting, diet, and cycling. Cycling was my big cardio, and then I did weightlifting on top of that. And then my eating habits probably weren't the best for a while, but having cycling kind of helped me not go down a really dark, low-calorie path because you have to eat to fuel yourself. So
yeah, it is one of the perks of
it kept me from sliding too far to the don't do anything too drastic side.
Yeah, it is. It's a double-edged sword. I did a couple really, for me, pretty big efforts this last year, last calendar year sort of thing, and then I took a break from writing a little bit, and very quickly, because my eating habits haven't changed.
You didn't change them, yeah.
I didn't change my eating habits, even though I changed my activity levels. So now I'm having to get back into figuring out, okay, what is the right level of diet for the right level of activity that I'm doing and things.
That is so hard. And I mean, we still play with it to this day, figuring out what we want to do. So last year, actually a year ago today, we did our first big trip. I mean, we had always ridden, like building up to it. We finally did do a 60-mile ride, but we were kind of slowly going on the Katy Trail, which is a beautiful place in Missouri. If you've ever been over down this way, it's a great rail to trail. It spans 240 miles from basically one side of Missouri to the other. So we live in a really great spot. We could just ride down the hill right to the trail and head out. So we left from our house, rode to Hermann, Missouri, which is about 60 miles, and spent the weekend in Hermann and rode back. So that was our first load all of our stuff on the bike and go trip.
Wow. So this is bike packing style?
Yeah, kind of. It's on the paved trail with all kinds of things in the way. So it's not super out, no services along this route. But that was our first load everything up on racks and attempt. So that was really fun. We did that for my birthday last year.
Oh, that sounds perfect. Did you tent camp, or was this
No,
just kind of
no,
like gear and
we did
Airbnb? I
60
love credit
miles
card camping,
and
by the way.
oh, we did. Oh yeah, credit card camping is my favorite because and I'll tell you about that in New Mexico. I told him I was like every 2 to 3 days I need a hotel room. I cannot and will not sit in a tent and in my own sweat for more than 3 days.
There are limits, and that's fine.
There
Yes,
are limits. But yeah, so that was our first like push to do something. We really enjoyed it. So then over the winter we bought the Wahoo trainers, or the kicker core trainers. Sorry, that's what it is. So we started with one because we knew we wanted to do New Mexico in the late spring or early spring, late winter. And so we bought one of those and started training on that. And then we couldn't, it was bad because our timing just didn't work. So we ended up buying a second one and we used the crap out of it over the winter. I mean, we never had a down season this year. I was doing like 30, 45-minute rides after work almost every night. If I wasn't lifting, I was riding. And then the weekends, so we got used to sitting in the saddle. We put the same saddles that we were taking to New Mexico on the bikes. And we were doing 60 to 100 miles on the trainers during the weekends just to make sure we could sit in the saddle for that long.
Wow, that's fantastic. Are you what are you using when you train? Are you more Zwift or Trainer Road, or there's some other ones out there?
So we use Zwift. And when we did our longer rides, we kind of minimized Zwift and just put on movies. And then every time a movie stopped, we'd stop, take a break to eat, get back on, and then keep going.
Perfect. Yeah. No, I've used Zwift a lot. I actually found that I overtrained sometimes with Zwift. Zwift is super engaging, and I love it, and the competitiveness.
I would just turn on my music when he wasn't home and I would just do a ride by myself. I would just blast my music and ride, and I would be like, oh, it's been an hour and a half already. Okay, time to get off and go do something.
Did you when you kind of got into this and you started training? I mean, it feels like a lot to go from nothing to a little bit of a cruiser, 17 miles. Okay, that's enough. And then suddenly there's this transition that happens where you're riding every day.
In between that, so we bought my checkpoint in 2020, and we were pushing each year. It was okay, go a little faster. So I mean, I went from going like 12, 13 miles an hour to okay, we're gonna get you going to like 15 miles an hour. And then our goal was always to ride about an hour to an hour and a half. So my mileage increased based on how much faster I was going. So that, I mean, we had about 3 years of not really pushing for anything, where I was just gradually increasing my skills. And we didn't really start doing anything major until last year. So, I mean, it was a slow progression to get to where we are. But this year we've just gone full ham on doing all kinds of things because he's like, you're finally bought in, you're in shape, you're ready to go. Let's do everything we can do and figure out what we like and what we don't like.
Yeah. And is it fun? Are you having fun?
Oh God, I love it. I love it. I get back to work. I go for the weekends or on Fridays. We always have happy hour here at work. I serve alcohol to my guys and they're like, so what do you have planned for this weekend? What are you doing this weekend? And
there's always something. Yeah, because
there's always something.
we'll get into Albia and the calendar and things like that. So just to recap, it sounds like 2019 you started getting into the riding, and then from 2020 to 2022, that's where you kind of built your aerobic base. You were just saying, I'm going to go out for an hour and a half, and you rode, and through consistent riding for a set amount of time, you started noticing and getting faster and faster. It sounds like you spent a good amount of time on the trainer to keep that consistency up and build your fitness. And I'm guessing that's where you probably started seeing the most transformation in your body and everything as it adapted to this training load that you're now putting it on. And so fast forward now to today or this year, you've mentioned a few times a big trip you took in New Mexico, so maybe we should hit
Yeah.
on that real
Okay.
quick. Tell me about your trip in New Mexico and how you
So
planned it.
my husband and I, we watched a couple of YouTube people, and we really liked the idea of bike packing. We're like, let's find a trip that we can do. Then we looked at our work schedules. He's a fuel truck driver, so farming is his main deliveries. So planting season and harvest season means he can't go out. I'm busy at Christmas and summer. So those are my two big seasons. So we're looking at it and we're going January, February into early March are about the only times that both of us can take a substantial amount of time off to do something like this. So then that put us at either the southeast or the southwest of places to go looking. And we wanted to avoid the gators and the snakes. So Florida was off our list. We're like, no, we're not going to head to Florida for doing this. So we looked at the southwest. We were on bikepacking.com, looked at a bunch of different routes, found the off-road runner in New Mexico, and just fell in love with the idea. We watched a couple of videos on it, liked the timing of it. So we thought, let's just do that one. So that's when we got the trainers and really started focusing on how many miles we were going to do in a day, how back to back they were going to be. So we started planning for it, trialing it. I got all the waypoints and mapped out our days. He did a lot of the research on what to bring, how to bring everything, how we were going to pack it, ultra light, everything. So he focused on that. I focused on where we're going to get food and water. And so this was a completely unsupported trip. It was just him and I. Parents were freaking out that I was going to be in the desert for a month with no way of them getting to me. I'm almost 40 and they still love me enough to worry about where I'm going to be for a month.
That's a good sign. It's a
great sign. I love it. They were very concerned but excited for us, and as were his parents. So as we were getting ready, I mean, we found a place that let us keep our Suburban. It was a a storage unit that has RV parking. So we got to park our vehicle there for a month for like $80 instead of paying to have it garage somewhere, which was great. And we took off on the Santa Fe National Trail into the
you started north in Santa Fe.
Yeah, we started north in Santa Fe and then headed south to Las Cruces.
Okay.
So it was 477 miles over 10 days with about 48,000 feet of elevation.
Nice. And
yeah, it was lots of climbing, lots of wind. We had a wind advisory most days that we were out there. So it was sustaining winds of like 30 miles an hour with gusts up to 60.
And I'm guessing this is always headwind, right?
And most of it was always headwind. And we were on these mountain bikes that I absolutely adore, which were perfect for us. That we were riding priority pinion geared bikes. So there was no chain. So you don't have to worry about a derailleur and chains breaking, especially because it was coming off of it snowed about a month before we got there. It was in the 50s when we were there, but you had snow melt. So while we were in the national forest going up and down these hills, there was banks of snow. So you had lots of melt with mud and it's red clay. So you're just talking peanut butter mud that gets stuck on your tires. And our belts popped off. Mine popped off twice. His popped off once. We had to flip the bikes upside down, take the wheels off, clean them off. We're washing our hands in the snow to get it all ready. I mean, that day we were expecting to go like 50 miles and we got 35 in just because we were overconfident and thinking we could leave at 11 and get where we wanted to go by like 6. That didn't happen. We ended up walking about 5 miles of the up and down rocky terrain that day. So we were riding into the dark, finding a place to camp and setting up our tents, getting everything ready. But yeah, we had everything packed up on our bikes. And the next day we hit Moriarty. And because this is where nutrition plays a huge part in what we did, I figured out that I don't like eating bars when there's wind because my mouth is dry and sawdusty. I would rather drink my calories. Altitude sickness got me
Yeah,
along
because
with
because
dehydration.
Moriarty, it looks like you're at about 6,000 feet
Yeah,
or
and we were
so
up
at that
higher
point.
being up in Santa Fe National Forest, we were at a higher elevation than that because we were descending going into Moriarty.
Yeah, and you're living in Missouri, so you don't
I mean,
have a lot of altitude
no, not at all. So
acclimatization, and you kind of jumped right into this.
yeah, we ended up getting a hotel that night and staying for 2 days because I just felt really sick. Like we got up the next day ready to go, and I'm like, yeah, I can't get back up on a bike right now. Like I still feel nauseous, but I also didn't drink enough water that day, especially pushing the bikes. I was like, no, it's fine. It's fine. I'll just get to the next spot instead of, keeping my timer because I was going every 2 miles, I'll take a drink. Well, when you're pushing your bike for an hour and a half, you're not thinking about it because you're not hitting those markers. So I really didn't eat or drink enough, and the elevation got to me. So we were on a 2-day delay on that one.
Which I mean is one of the best things you can do. It's really smart that you gave yourself enough time as well to be able to do that because to acclimate to altitude, the best thing you can do is sleep at altitude. Get your body in a nice comfortable space, let it figure out, okay, what do I have to adjust and what do I have to change to this new environment that I'm in? And I mean, going in and pushing hard is, you have to recover from that. Being in a drier heat, I mean, if you're used to Missouri, you were
humidity is our friend, and
you're used to humidity. Yeah, and your sweat functions differently. And so you suddenly might be sweating a whole lot more, especially in the wind, and not know it and need to have all your fluids in as well. So
it was very much a learning experience, but totally worth it.
would you stay 2 days in Moriarty again, or was that just out of necessity?
No, that was out of necessity, but I would do it. It was a great little town. The people were unbelievably nice because we rolled in there, got to the supermarket that we wanted to get food at, and I mean, they took one look at us and they're like, put your bikes in the back, go sit down, have something to eat. I mean, I drank an entire half gallon of chocolate milk when I sat down. And I looked at him and he's like, all right, now you need to find us a hotel for the night. And I'm like, okay. I can barely move my hands. I'm just shaky so bad. But we got over it, and it went, I mean, after that day, things went really good. The worst thing we had was the wind. There was a stretch of washboard, gravel that absolutely destroyed me because I was gripping so tight on my handlebars. And one thing I would change on my bike would be not using the Jones bar on my mountain bike. The back sweep on it was too much. My wrist was twisted, so I lost feeling in my pinky and ring finger on my left hand about 3 times. So we got into truth or consequences, and I couldn't even hold a knife in that hand. It hurt, was numb. So our original goal was to get to Las Cruces and then ride back. By the time we got to Las Cruces, I was like, okay, can't feel my hands, don't like the bar setup. There's some things that we had learned along the way that we wouldn't do again. And we're like, let's just call it, go home and not ride back up, because let's not take a chance with the altitude or hand. I would have had to buy all new clothes because I wore merino wool with no knee padding. So I had worn holes into my knees, and okay, lessons learned on lots of things about what not to do next time.
Yeah. Oh, and these trips always that is so common. I don't think I've ever been perfectly planned out for a trip, because there's always something a little bit different. And if you can enjoy that part of it, it's great. Yeah. And realizing that you're kind of becoming a adventure scientist, right? You're putting out a theory. I think this is what we need to do. I think this is what we need to try. And then you go and test those theories. And you see how close you got.
Absolutely.
And then you adjust.
Well, so since then, we've done, our season never ended last year, and we just kind of went right into New Mexico, into Flint Hills gravel ride in April, and then doing all kinds. I think we've had 10 events already that we've done since April to today.
Wow. That's a busy calendar.
A lot. And I'm feeling the effects of it, honestly.
Yeah, overtraining and over racing is very much a thing. And when you have back-to-back weekends,
Yes.
you really aren't getting a chance to recover,
Not at all. And it hit me
the way
with
maybe you need to.
we had 2 weeks where we were attempting back-to-back centuries. I did not complete the first century, but I did get a metric in. And then the next weekend I got a century in. And after that, my legs have just felt shot after like 30 miles. And so we're on a maintenance routine right now where I'm lifting low level. I'm just no hills, just going out and pedaling for about an hour every other day or so, just to kind of keep going, but not pushing, just so I can continue doing what I want to do when we have another event in in a month.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did have one question about the New Mexico trip. Did you
good.
end up going up to, what is it, Mount Withering?
Mount Withington closed.
Oh, because it looks like on the Ride with GPS route for it on bikehacking.com, that's your high point at like something like 10,000 feet.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing, did you end up going over it, or did you augment your route and go
we
around?
Augmented. Yeah. So when we left Moriarty, the next landmark we hit was Tajik. When we got into Tajik, we called the Forest Ranger services to find out, is the Chloride Loop open? Is Withington open? Can we go through Bear Trap Canyon? Because we were kind of trying to map out our route and our days. And they were like, yeah, no, between flood or forest fires, snow, all of it was closed. Yeah. So we ended up going around Withington, and beautiful scenery, absolutely beautiful scenery. We tried to go to the VLA, the Very Large Array. The Very Large Array does deep space exploration. So when we didn't do the Chloride Loop, or not the Chloride Loop, when we were trying to go around Withington and Bear Trap, we hit the VLA after we went into Magdalena, and they were closed. So that day turned in, because we were accounting for like a 2-hour tour, and then just riding another like 10 miles and camping. Well, he's like, well, we can get past Dunston, something like that. I don't remember. We rode past it at night, because that way we can get to Winston in the morning. So we ended up riding in the dark by full moon and one light until about 8:30 that night to get to a camping spot.
Wow.
It was a long
scary
day.
Or beautiful, or was it scary?
A little bit of both. And then we were supposed to get into this national forest entrance. So we had to ride so far to get to this national forest road. We get there and there is a gate, and it is locked, and somebody bought the property, and there was a no trespassing sign. And I pull up to this gate, and it is bright moonlight above me. It's a beautiful picture that he has of like me with the one headlight and the moon above. But that was about an hour before we got to this spot. I pull up to this gate and it's locked, and I just hang my head and start crying because I'm like, it's late. I'm tired. So we ended up finding a place off the side of the road to just camp and get out before anybody saw us the next day.
Yeah. That is not the jankiest story I've ever heard when faced with a change of route or a closed gate or something like that. Yeah. So that sounds like you have gained a lot of experience, and and frankly, your next trip will probably be you either get gutsier or your credit card game gets even better.
Oh yeah, well,
and both are fine routes to go.
I do love the camping because it gives you a lot more to do, longer to go, and you can play with it a lot more. But if you have hotel reservations, you're kind of stuck. You get there and you stop. Because then the next day we did have a shorter day because we got into Winston at like 10 in the morning. They had this great general store. I walk in and they had pulled pork already like on the stovetop, and I'm like, yeah, I don't care how early it is. I want some of that pulled pork right now.
And that, again, that's one of the perks of like these big events. It's like whatever you want to eat, you just get to do it, and
having deprived myself of like the junk food and the things that I loved for so long, trying to be conscious of what I was eating. to be able to go on a trip and just have a milkshake at 10 o'clock in the morning because, well, shit, you deserve it.
Yeah, you put in the hours, you need the calories. Do it.
Yeah.
All right. So
It was
let's skip ahead to
You're good.
Albia. You can, although I am curious, like what events have you mentioned Flint Hills, which is down in Kansas, and
Yep.
I've met the race director. He's fantastic.
Americas.
Yeah, they're fantastic. They put on a fantastic event.
Oh, they do.
What are some of the other events you've done in between New Mexico and Albia?
So Flint Hills, and then we did two in Springfield. We did the Queen City Century, which is the one I failed at. And then I've only sagged out in 2 races, and that was Queen City and Flint Hills. But we did the Iron Horse in Springfield, which I placed 3rd in that one too.
Nice.
Which is kind of a nice surprise. I didn't expect that one. Didn't expect it in Albia either. We did the Vino Fondo, the El Chupacabra in Colombia, the Harry 100. We ended up getting rained out on that one. We didn't end up going to the Harry 100. And I'm missing a couple of others, and I can't think of them at the moment.
So you kind of sticking to the Midwest,
Tour de Donut,
Missouri.
Yeah.
Tour de Donut. Okay.
Yep. Tour de Donut in Staunton, Illinois.
Gotcha. So Illinois, Missouri, Kansas, and so this was the Albia Holy Cow. Was this your first Iowa race?
That was my first Iowa race. We're actually planning on going to Iowa next year. Our big trip next year will be going to Ragbri for my 40th birthday.
Congrats. That'll be awesome. Yeah. What did you notice about Albia and about Iowa that was different from Illinois, Missouri, and Kansas? What were some of the things that stood out to you? Or maybe it felt the same. Maybe that's it was just more of the same.
Very similar. I liked your gravel a lot more than I liked Kansas's gravel. Missouri gravel is about the same. You're hilly without being the real steep, at least the route we were on. I can't speak for the rest of your routes, but like our Vino Fondo route was 75 miles and 5,500 feet of climbing. Yeah, so I'm used to lots of hills in Missouri. So it was nice to have more of a rolling gravel without big twists and chunky gravel at the bottom. That was really nice. The wildflowers along the roads were beautiful.
Oh yeah. I love Albia times just has is good timing for the year. Usually there's usually great flowers. I remember one year scouting the Albia route and disturbing a huge group of butterflies and wondering if I actually would make it through. It was that thick of butterflies were enjoying a beautiful, wildflower meadow off to the side and everything. So yeah, Albia is always full of surprises because it's also the place where
Albia we knew we wanted to go to Iowa to try, and Albia is just the closest one, being only about a little over 4 hours away from us.
A quick sponsor break here for you. When Matt started Or Not in 2013, massive logos and team kits were the norm. Or Not's goal was to change the landscape by offering well-designed cycling clothing with minimal branding made right here in the US of A. All while not emptying your wallet. I've trained and ridden thousands of miles in Or Not bibs and jerseys, and they work just as well as the fancy European stuff that I'm terrified to ever disclose to my wife how much I spent on those kits. Or Not's kits look and feel great, so look for the discount code in our description and give them a try. Or not, that's their thing. Anyway, now back to the episode.
Nice. So I think you did set out to do the 100K on Albia, but then opted to switch to the 50, and it worked out well for you because
I did.
you got third place on the podium. Congratulations with that.
Thank you.
Take me through kind of that race day and what you experienced.
Yeah, so like I had mentioned before, back in June, we did 2 back-to-back centuries, and I really hadn't done a whole lot of riding, a little bit, but not a whole lot since then. And then we did Tour de Donut and no, we did Tour de Corn and Tour de Donut back to back, and those were 35 to 40 mile races. And my legs were a little tired, a little sore, and I was like, well, okay, I'm getting back into it. It's fine. So we had both signed up for the 100, and I'm like, all right, it'll be fine. I can do the 100K. I've done 63 miles before. Haven't sagged out. Should be fine. And we're in the group, and I take off, and everything's going fine. And then the pack just keeps going, and I keep slowing down. And my husband looks at me and goes, are you okay? I'm like, well, I'm just not feeling the power in my legs. Like I knew I would complete it, but it was going to be really slow. And I felt like kind of that was a discussion we were having as we were getting closer to that aid station was, do we really want to make the volunteers sit out here for like 3 extra hours because I'm feeling exceptionally slow today? Or do we want to just enjoy the ride and break off and just do the 50? So when we pulled up to you and we were talking, and you kind of looked at us surprised, like, oh, you're doing the 100. Wow. Because that's the way I
never try to be like overly surprised by anything. So I apologize
you're
if I
good.
came as surprised.
It wasn't
You
a bad
fine
thing,
to me.
but that was one of the things my husband was like, he seemed kind of taken aback that we're so far behind everybody else on doing this 100. And I'm like, okay, you know what? Let's just take it slow and enjoy it. We've got 15 miles to go from this point.
So I'll
that's
tell
why
you actually what I was
surprised that you
actually
even
thinking. Because let me tell you what I was actually thinking when you came
Okay.
in. Because you two look very experienced. You have great gear. You look solid on the bike. You look comfortable on the bike. Your attitudes were like super great and everything. So when you said you were on the 100K, honestly, I thought you were probably at the lead of the 50K because you just looked looked really solid.
Right.
and so that's what I was actually thinking. It wasn't so much like, oh geez,
just my husband
this
going,
late?
you're really sucking today. You should probably not do this other one, because if you sag out on me, I'm going to be pissed that I'm so far behind everybody else.
You two seem to be communicating well, having a great day.
We do.
So I was not worried about you at all.
No, that was just that was us.
We added a B road kind of close to the beginning this year. There were at least 2 or 3 B roads before that first aid station.
Mm-hmm.
Were you able to enjoy those, or were those pretty challenging?
The first B road kind of freaked me out. Not too bad. I mean, I was fine, but I was like, oh, didn't expect that. But all right, I was like, this is like New Mexico. I kind of wish I had my priority instead of my checkpoint. But
little rutted out in sections.
But it was, I was kind of glad actually to not be in the pack, because when I'm in the pack doing stuff like that, I get more nervous because you can't find a good spot, or you're afraid to take a line, being a little slower and throwing somebody else off. So I don't always like being in the pack when it comes to stuff like that.
Yeah. Being in a group on a technical climb or whatnot adds complexity. You got to not just think about yourself. You got to think about everybody around you.
In Flint Hills, where there was just so many people, and especially at the beginning, it was some super chunky downhill, like fast downhills, that I'm sitting there riding my brakes because it's my first gravel ride that's on this bike, and I'm going, I don't know about this. I'm super cautious when it comes to that stuff. I mean, I can do the uphill. I can put it in my lowest gear and just grind it out. I have no problem chunky gravel uphill, but downhill I get more nervous and cautious on.
Yeah, no, and that's normal. That's self-preservation, right? Making sure you're doing the right thing.
Now, if I started gravel when I was a child and not almost 40, probably wouldn't be as terrified and just bomb down with no fear.
Yeah, we all can't be Lumen and start and getting on the.
Everybody can be that amazing little 10-year-old who did such a great job.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. It's wonderful seeing young people being on the podium and being at these races and things, because it's something that I wish I had had in my life growing up. Is there just wasn't access, or I didn't know how to access, racing and some of these bigger, more adventurous cycling events. We just rode our bikes up into the mountains and took a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with a bag of Fritos with us, and we hope to make it back.
Yeah, my cycling as a child was literally just going around the block or riding around like the streets with my friends, because growing up in Alton, we have some big hills, but that was it. It was just riding your bike to your friend's house and hanging out. That was the extent I had prior to 2019.
So at the first aid station, you say, okay, let's head back towards let's opt for the 50K. How was it getting back to the finish line?
Oh, it was great. Because you had us going back on that second B road, which was fantastic. I enjoyed the second B road, and then that really flat part that was dirt was absolutely beautiful. I loved that road.
Yeah, there's Albia is kind of an interesting area geographically. It's mostly dippy, so you do get some dips, and then you have to kind of climb out of them. But Albia also follows the railroad quite a bit, so there's a number of railroad crossings, which is fine if you're willing to just wait for a train. It's a little frustrating if you're racing and suddenly the pack gets
gets stopped dead for a train.
Gets stopped by a train. Hopefully the whole pack gets stopped by the train, or that could be really frustrating. And there's a little bit of a climb out, so you get off of that beautiful dirt road where I've seen massive quail and pheasant on.
I bet.
Albia has amazing wildlife, and then you have to climb out a little bit back to the fairground. How is that?
Oh, fine. Like I said, we drove 4 hours for this, so let's just slow down and enjoy. Because honestly, I didn't think I was going to place, because I knew I started a half an hour sooner than everybody else. So I figured people are going to start passing me and their times are going to be way above mine. We're not rushing. We're just kind of out to enjoy the ride. And when we got back, I'm like, oh, well, hey, that was better than I thought.
So were you able to kind of get cleaned up and do what you needed to do there at the fairgrounds? How was that?
No, we got back, and again, I didn't expect anything, so I immediately took my stuff to the women's bathroom and changed, and so that's why I'm in jean shorts and a t-shirt, and everybody else is still in their cycling gear on the podium.
You look fantastic, and people change out all the time. So after this, we talked a little bit about what your offline through email and a phone conversation. We talked a little bit about you've got a pretty busy schedule the rest of the year, but you did sign up for the Glenwood Super Bloom, and so I'm curious, what made you go from here's what my schedule is to now wanting to do Super Bloom?
I talked to my husband, and we were looking at the events that we had that are going to kind of surround that one. And Uric Bike Fest is the weekend before, and it's just like 20-mile loops that you can do different ones as many times as you want. It's a camp out festival kind of feel. So he can go do whatever he wants, and that's totally fine as much as he wants. I'll just do like one or two little loops and be okay and not feel burnt out for the next weekend. And then the weekend after is Sweet Springs, and it's just another 30-mile, or I'm signed up for the 40-mile on that one. So again, not super hard and pushy. So I'm like, okay, you know what? I really think I can do it, because we signed up for the Sweet Springs race after I sagged out in Flint Hills. So I knew I wasn't going to go for their like 80. It was either an 80 or a 40. So I signed up for the 40.
So as you took a look at the Super Bloom, what is it that you hope, what kind of experience are you hoping to have there?
Well, I was thinking after we had talked, and the more I thought about it, I really like the idea that there is probably going to be more people my skill level riding. So I'm not going to feel as behind as I did at the other one. Again, I think a lot of it was my own personal legs blowing up on me and not recovering properly. But I think there's going to be more of a relaxed feel. and just something I feel like there's going to be more people out there while I'm still out there.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know, but that's my hope at least.
Your goal is to do the 100K?
My goal is to do the 100K.
Okay. And there's a good option for kind of like shortening that if people needed to go from the 100K to the 50K sort of thing.
Okay.
But yeah, I think you were number 81. Let me get my numbers straight. I can't remember if you were 81 or 91 in terms of like our the number of women that have signed up for Glenwood. So let's see here. Let's look at the most current numbers. Yeah, looks like you were probably 81.
Yeah, because I know after we had talked, and I was waiting for that credit to come in, and talking to Shane a little bit. So yeah, that's going to be my first one all on my own. He's not going to be there at all. He's staying home with the dogs.
Oh, sweet. So you're coming up alone as well?
Yeah, I'm coming up all by myself, doing all my bike prep, and found my own hotel, and yeah.
I was going to ask, do you plan on hoteling or camping?
Yeah,
because we do have both options.
Yeah, because looking at it, the way I'd get out there is actually driving from St. Louis to Kansas City and then shooting up 29. So there, I found a nice little. We use Best Western a lot, so I have lots of points built up with them because they're everywhere.
Well, that's so exciting. So yeah, I know that we'll have, and this is really something that Julie Bohr, who is the founder of the cycling team and club, Prairie Bloom, who's really putting us on. I know she's got some really fun things planned for that whole day, and I hear things about DJs and some really good food at Keg Creek and things like that. So I'm looking forward to being there and just helping out with the timing. But Julie, we probably need to get Julie on the podcast here soon so everybody can hear about all the cool things that Super Bloom's doing.
Yeah,
cool.
I am really excited to do it, honestly.
Alrighty, a quick break for our sponsors. Hammer Nutrition has spent over 35 years developing the most effective, natural products. It's free of added sugars, artificial colors, flavors, chemicals, and preservatives. The team at Hammer only uses complex carbohydrates and the highest quality proteins and ingredients, and it's 100% made in the US. I experienced Hammer the first time I did a standard century ride, and I refueled at the halfway point. I had a negative split on that beautiful windless day, and I've trusted Hammer to get me through my biggest days ever since. So whether it's Iowa Wind and Rock, climbing up Mauna Kea, or scouting courses for the Iowa Gravel Series, it's the stuff I put in my bottle, in my pockets, and in my bag. It's great, and we're proud to be sponsored by Hammer. Now back to the episode.
Gwen, this has been so fantastic chatting with you. I have one last question.
Okay.
Is there like a big bucket list or big challenge that you're kind of looking towards here in the near future? You mentioned Ragbri. Is that the big thing for 40, or is there something maybe even bigger out there? Or
so Ragbri, yeah. Next year will be the year of the tandem and Ragbri. So we are currently actually getting fitted for our geometry for a custom build tandem tomorrow.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I've heard tandems either make marriages just that much better, or
that much worse,
or you sell the tandem. Like
yeah. Yeah. His favorite joke is it helps you get wherever your marriage is going. A tandem will get you there faster.
There you go.
But no, we have really good communication, and our biggest issue that we came across, besides my physical issues in New Mexico, was his cadence is so much higher than mine. His speed, the power he puts out in his legs is so much more than mine that we have a hard time staying together. And he gets really nervous, and I get really nervous when we have like a mile between us on a road that cars are flying by. So we want to do more touring. Touring is what we do enjoy. Now, these races have been great, figuring out if we prefer gravel over road and just finding different ways to explore the area around us. But we do want to do more touring in the years to come. His goal is in 10 years, we quit our jobs and go bike pack around the world. and he wants to do it on tandem. So we're looking at the touring tandem, more of a mountain bike setup, so we can do things like the off-road runner together and get through. He wants to do the Continental Divide.
Wow, on a
Yeah.
tandem?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, he's got goals and I've got goals for it, and we're going big tires, and that way we can roll through just about anything. So we're gonna start. We have, even living where we live, we have yet to do the full Katy Trail. So once we get the tandem, we're gonna try and do the Katy down and back in about 4 days.
Oh, that all sounds so exciting. It's so fun. I mean, there are so many great places to go. I haven't done the Katy Trail yet, but it is certainly something that I'm looking at.
Yeah,
I've got
rail to trail, any rail to trail I can find, I want to do.
Well, while you're up here for the Super Bloom, check out the Wabash Trace. It starts in Council Bluffs, and it goes all the way to the border of Missouri, south.
Oh, cool.
It's about 80 miles from one end to the other. And it's a great, what I've done is I've started in Council Bluffs, ridden down on Friday night, put a tent up in a little what is it? It's a little tiny Missouri state park that's down there, wilderness camped, and then packed it up in the morning and rode back. And it's cool. Really very, very pleasant. So
one thing I would, because I'm more of a camper and a hiker. Well, I'm a cyclist now, but camping and hiking is big on my to-do list. So one of the things I would like to do is, on our month or two off that we would like to take, every year or so, is go to the northwest and do all the national parks and camp and cycle through, but then we'd have a place to store our bikes so we can actually do some hiking and other things at the national parks. So that is my goal. I would like to hit like Arches and the Moab and all of that up there.
Oh, there's so much. It feels like the list is always longer than the time allowed to do it. Yeah,
exactly.
Well, Gwen, it has been fantastic to get to know you a little bit today. Thank you so much for your time. Is there anything that you want to kind of like leave us off on in terms of like, if someone was listening to this and just getting into cycling and was kind of at that first year where you were back in 2019, what would you tell 2019 Gwen?
If I could tell 2019 Gwen anything, it would be to keep at it. You never know what you can achieve until you push yourself to do it. And small goals and small victories will get you so much farther in the end. So setting lofty goals is great, but having those benchmark goals along the way to keep you going and keep you excited will help you out in the long run.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Gwen, and we'll see you soon.
All right. Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it.
All right.
Bye.